And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy. Just said they want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard. Wants them to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a Social Security card. Yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of them all, voting in America. No, it's no good. So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy, I'm telling you. They're crazy. Boy, oh boy. We're lucky we have a country. With people like this, Democrats...
Says black people aren't apes. That is the sign. Texas Democrat Al Green. Black people aren't apes.
The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings us problems right here to the USA, and it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills, car insurance rates, rent, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, crime. We will take care of this problem. We're going to take care of this problem. We are not playing games. You should be ashamed of yourself. Stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act. To stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections. That cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID.
I hope y'all are watching the State of the Union. The president just said that he's glad that he ended DEI. Gas is $1.85 in Iowa. He said he was there this week and saw it. So somebody from Iowa, please post a picture where your gas is $1.85. He said that 100% of the jobs that he created in the last month were in the private sector. He also said that we're winning. We're winning bigly. He said that DC is one of the safest cities in the country right now. And he said under him, more people are working. As if we have not seen massive layoffs, particularly with Black women. Oh, and he also touted bringing in massive amounts of oil from Venezuela. And the men's hockey team, who just won U.S. gold at the Winter Olympics, came and was celebrated during the State of the Union address.
Well, that was a long one. President Trump just delivered the longest State of the Union address in American history, clocking in at about 1 hour and 48 minutes. So, what did he say? Well, he said things like this.
Our country is winning again. In fact, we're winning so much that we really don't know what to do about it. People are asking me, please, 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 Mr. President, we're winning too much. We can't take it anymore. We're not used to winning in our country. Until you came along, we're just always losing, but now we're winning too much.
And this.
Inflation is plummeting. Incomes are rising fast. The roaring economy is roaring like never before.
And this.
We ended DEI in America.
Now I'm going to get to the political outbursts in a second, but before I get there, you should also know about the substance of the speech. Of course, Trump ran down a laundry list of all of the things that he sees as accomplishments, but he also announced a couple of new things. Trump says, one, he is going to try and get big tech companies to pay for and produce their own electricity for their massive AI data centers, because most people believe those data centers are driving up their energy costs. Now, those companies have not agreed to that yet, but Trump said he's going to try and get them to. He also announced that next year he's going to somehow allow average Americans to have access to the same type of retirement account offered to every federal worker. And then Trump said that the government was going to contribute a matching fund of $1,000 every year. Again, no idea how he's going to do that. Of course, like all presidents, President Trump demanded that some of his key priorities be passed by Congress. He demanded that the Senate pass the Save America Act, which would require proof of citizenship before being allowed to vote. He wants Congress to codify his tariffs into law. He wants them to codify his Trump RX program into law. He wants Congress to pass his healthcare plan into law. And he wants Congress to pass a bill that would prohibit big corporations from buying up single-family homes. Lastly, he also wants Congress to pass a law that would prohibit lawmakers from profiting from stocks based on their knowledge in Congress. Now, the vast majority of the nearly 100 standing ovations Trump got were from only Republicans. But that idea of banning insider trading also got a standing ovation from Democrats.
They stood up for that, I can't believe.
And that wasn't the only time. I counted about a dozen times during Trump's speech that Democrats did stand and applaud. For example, they did so for the military members that Trump awarded the Purple Heart to, or to the World War II veterans who got the Congressional Medal of Honor. Now, the standing ovation thing is part of the political show of the State of the Union. The president's party always gives him a standing ovation for almost every line he delivers, and the minority party just sits there and does nothing. That's not uncommon, but it appeared like President Trump started to get more and more aggravated that Democrats were not applauding him, and you could sort of start to see it on his face.
We will always protect Social Security and Medicare. They are not protecting it for our seniors. Shame. You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
And then it finally led to this back and forth between the president and the representatives from Minnesota and Michigan over sanctuary cities.
Penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country. They're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Now, the bottom line here is this speech is probably going to be President Trump's largest audience and his biggest opportunity to reach voters before the midterm election. So the question is, did Trump deliver a message that will allow Republicans to hold on to power in the House and the Senate after November? That's for you to decide.
His wonderful wife, Erica, is with us tonight. Erica, please stand. Thank you, Erica. Been through a lot. In Charlie's memory, we must all come together to reaffirm that America is one nation under God, and we must totally reject political violence of any kind.
If there's one thing the State of the Union proved, it's that patriotism and love of country really bother these folks on the left. As President Trump said, these people are crazy. The fact that some Democrats would not stand for a 100-year-old veteran who sacrificed for this country so we can have freedoms and liberties is absolutely sickening. They also would not stand for Irina Zarutska's family. Irina was stabbed on the train coming home from work. There were over 70 Democrats who would not even show up for the State of the Union. They hosted an alternative Drain the Swamp event with people in frog costumes. They are a bunch of overgrown theater kids who don't want to do any actual work. They can't even get participation trophies because they didn't participate or show up. Now, Sisterhood of the Traveling Scammers, they did show up, but the second President Trump mentioned fraud or loving our country, Ilhan Omar was apoplectic. She was melting down. There are Democrats who would not stand for the Olympic men's hockey team. This isn't even a partisan issue, okay? Sports are supposed to bring everybody together. Look at this guy, okay? He's in a mask. He won't even turn to look at them. This is a member of the media. Remember, 90% of the media, they hate you and I, and they also align themselves with the Democratic Party and carry water for them. One Democrat who did show up was Nancy Pelosi. I don't know if she was overserved at dinner. She had a hard time keeping her eyes open, but a diet consisting of nothing but Pinot Grigio and hatred for Donald Trump can't be good for your body. I've said it before, but I'll say it again because I know some of you are new here. I don't even think this country is divided by Republicans and Democrats anymore. It's divided by those who love the United States of America and those who seek to destroy it. You can look at some of these polls, right? A huge swath of Democrats believe political violence and extremism are justified. What's sad is that there actually are a few good Democrats who want to work across the aisle, get things done. They come to Washington with good intentions, but now they have to capitulate to this extremist wing of the party, and we're looking at it right now. These are people who do not want you and I to even be here. The Democrats in Washington, they claim to hate President Trump, but they offer nothing else. You guys have no identity. You have nothing going for you. You have no policies to put forth. All you have is Trump derangement syndrome. We're over here loving the country. We're patriotic. We are not going to apologize for loving the United States of America. And we have free speech. You don't have to love President Trump. You don't have to like him. But if you don't admit that the country is better off now than it was 4 years ago, then you're lying to yourself. All right, I love you guys. Thanks for liking and following. Drop a comment. Tell me what you thought about the State of the Union. I will see you on the next one. Bye.
I sat through the entire State of the Union, so you didn't have to. Let's fact check it.
I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries.
False. More than 90% of Donald Trump's tariffs were paid by American consumers and businesses in 2025, which amounted to approximately $1,000 per household being paid.
And in 1 year, we have lifted 2.4 million Americans, a record, off of food stamps.
False. They weren't lifted out of poverty. They were kicked off of their benefits when you took $187 billion worth of SNAP benefits from them in the big, beautiful bill.
The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens.
What I can say for sure is Donald Trump is not going to take no for an answer.
First truth spoken all night.
Washington, D.C., where we have almost no crime.
So false that I only need one DC criminal to prove my point. A 34-time convicted felon occupies the People's House after trying to overthrow the government. His own stacked Supreme Court ruled his tariffs are unconstitutional. He continues to carry out extrajudicial killings in the Caribbean and also accepts $500 million bribes from spy sheiks to sell out American tech. And oh, by the way, he was credibly accused of sexually assaulting a minor, a witness taken so seriously they were interviewed 4 times by the FBI, and whose accusations and testimony are currently being buried by his Department of Justice.
Remember this moment during Biden's State of the Union address?
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal.
Since we're talking about accountability and we're going to say that Joe Biden is the reason why Lincoln Riley was killed by an undocumented immigrant, then we should be saying to Donald J. Trump, how about you apologize to the Epstein survivors that will be in the audience of the State of the Union address that were assaulted by your friend Jeffrey Epstein. In addition, he should go on to explain why his name is in there thousands of times and why his Department of Justice is actively covering up the Epstein file. In addition, while he has this opportunity to speak to so many Americans, he should also be explaining to them why the Supreme Court ruled that he was taxing the American people illegally by enacting these tariffs unilaterally. And finally, the President of the United States, while he has this great opportunity to talk to the American public, should tell them that it is his policies that are making their prices higher. It is his policies that are making the job market stall. It is his policies that are harming the average day American people. And it is his policies that are causing the affordability crisis to continue and to get worse.
There are only 2 things that stand out to me about Trump's State of the Union speech. The first one was that I cannot believe that almost every single one of the guests that he pointed out in the audience or made reference to was a victim of a major crime that happened during his administration. As he went through his speech, he put in out about a dozen different people, but every single one of them was connected in some tragic way to a horrific crime that took place during his administration. And Seth Abramson, who is a Trump biographer, noticed this as well. He wrote, "I'm going to tell you something as a Trump biographer, and I mean it seriously. You need to understand that Trump gets something close to sexual excitement from describing acts of violence. If you wonder why his State of the Union speeches always include graphic violence, that's why. It's for him." So for anyone else who clocked that and found it unnerving, you're not alone. Your intuition is correct. There is something weird about the way he describes violence, especially in a crowd. Secondly, and maybe more optimistically, tonight I think we saw the birth of what the new Democratic Party will look like and the death of what the old Democratic establishment will no longer be able to carry forward. The Democrats were pretty well split between who showed up in the chambers to sit politely and honor tradition of showing up to watch the president give the State of the Union. And yes, that included John Fetterman putting on a full suit and sitting in the front row and shaking Trump's hand. But what you might have missed if you didn't tune in to the People's State of the Union, which was alternate programming taking place live on the National Mall, was hosted by former mainstream media news anchors Katie Phang and Joy Ann Reid, and featured dozens of Democratic lawmakers who are more progressive, younger, and looking to build a new coalition on the left. Many of them, if not all of them, are endorsed by the Working Families Party, and also the Working Families Party gave their own response to the State of the Union, which was done by Representative Summer Lee, who I think tonight showed that she is the next AOC. I don't mean it like directly like that. I just mean the excitement that I felt the first time I saw AOC give big speeches like this is how I felt for Summer Lee today. I was like, she is the future of the party. And that event on the National Mall was hosted by one of the biggest and fastest growing news media companies in the country and now internationally. That's the Midas Touch Network. Tonight, the thing that made it worth staying up all night for was seeing where we were as a country, where we are, but where we're going. And that gave me a lot of hope, that gave me a lot of purpose, and a lot of energy. All right, time to try to figure out how to phrase my takeaway from State of the Union being that Trump gets kind of sexually excited when he talks about violence for CNN tomorrow at 6 a.m. so that I don't make it weird again. Nah, I'm going to make it weird.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Democrats just showed the world they do not think the first duty of the American government is to protect the American people. Wild. Wild. That absolutely should be the first priority of our government. And this is a perfect example of why Democrats are not fit to be running our government. And you know, this currently checks out because they are currently defunding the Department of Homeland Security. There's a shutdown right now. Democrats don't want DHS funded right now. And DHS is not funded right now. Secret Service doesn't get paid much. TSA is not getting paid. Homeland Security is not getting paid. Of all the things they could hold up funding for, they choose the Department of Homeland Security, which defends Americans and was put into place after 9/11. It is wild to see Democrats sit there and not stand up and agree that the government's primary job, the first job, is to protect its people. But again, this is the modern Democratic Party. They quite literally, in front of the world, said, you know, we're choosing illegal aliens over American citizens. Wild. Absolutely wild. It'll be interesting to see how they try to defend this later. But that's all I've got for now. Don't forget I have a free email newsletter. I send this out every morning, 7 a.m. Central. It's the best place to get direct information from me, and I cannot be censored there. The link is in my profile, so click that link, drop your email in, hit subscribe, and you'll be good to go. I'll see you in the next one.
Donald Trump just completed his 2026 State of the Union address. It was a global humiliation and a total disaster. What I can summarize for you is that this was not only a ridiculous speech and a dangerous speech, it was kind of a pointless speech. Much of the speech spent giving people awards and medals in the crowd, some deserving, some not so much. A real waste of time at the end of the day. And Donald Trump sort of plodding through with increasingly less energy as it went, delivering the lines without really any attachment to them, told endless lies. But let's start with Donald Trump's arrival. Trump looked so rough at the beginning as he arrived with his hair completely blown out of proportion, his makeup inappropriately applied, orange-faced in some areas, missing makeup in others. Just from what he looked like when he arrived, you knew that this was not going to go well. And indeed, Donald Trump sticking with a lot of what he says every day, which is it doesn't matter how you feel things are, everything's great and I fixed it, and the last remaining things that are not so good are the fault of Joe Biden or definitely someone else. For example, Donald Trump insisting he inherited a stagnant economy with record inflation.
When I last spoke in this chamber 12 months ago, I had just inherited a nation in crisis with a stagnant economy, inflation at record levels, a wide open border, horrendous recruitment for military and police, rampant crime at home, and wars and chaos all over the world. But tonight, after just 1 year, I can say with dignity and pride that we have achieved a transformation like no one has ever seen before.
And of course, most of that isn't true. Inflation was like 2.8% when Trump came into office. The crime rate has been declining for decades in the United States. It's just a made up farce at the end of the day.
That was quite the speech, wasn't it? Let me start off by saying something very clearly. If you have any degree of common sense, if you have the ability to think critically and use logic, the only conclusion you can draw from tonight's State of the Union address is that the modern radical Democrat Party hates America. And I do not say that lightly. I wish I could say I was surprised. I wish I could say I can't believe they didn't stand up for X reason, Y reason, Z reason. Trump literally gave them the opportunity to stand up and admit that one of the roles of government, one of the biggest roles of government, is to protect American citizens. And what did they do? They sat on their hands like they are known to do, like they have continued to do. Every time they have had power, they have allowed individuals to run roughshod over the average American and dare you to call them out on it. One of the best things he did was actually call them out and allow individuals to see this contrast for themselves, because all too often you'll see leftists engage in this weird war of words, right, where they try to couch or phrase things differently to make it appear more palatable. They are masters at this. This is one of the hallmarks of cultural Marxism, is trying to change the definitions of things, trying to make things sound more
appealing to the average everyday person, right? But you're going to sit there now and tell me that Democrats could not be bothered to stand up and admit that their job is to protect American citizens, particularly over illegal immigrants. They can't do that, right? They won't stand up for the 5-year-old girl who almost lost her life at the hands of an illegal immigrant who was given a driver's license here in this country. They consistently prove to you time and time again that the last thing they care about is the average everyday American. And yet they think that they are entitled to walk these halls of power. They think that they should be allowed to form and create these rules and these laws. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the State of the Union address has not devolved into a little bit of political theater. I mean, it started off with Al Green, literally the festering boil on Houston, Texas, showing up with a sign that said black people aren't apes. Who told you that they were apes in the first place, Al Green? Let me ask you that question. But honestly, Al Green, ironically enough, is probably the strongest argument against the statement he even made this evening. But I digress. These people are not serious. These people do not care about you. And these people will prove to you time and time again that all they want to do is stand against American progress. They cannot be bothered to put your needs first. And they pretend that they care about America at all. It's almost as if, it's like if you would imagine a vampire being forced to hold a cross. That's them holding American flags. I tuned in before the speech actually started, and there was some State of the Swamp event that they were holding, right? Of course, it was attended by the usual suspects like Mark Ruffalo was there and a couple others. He literally had, I think it was Maxine Dexter. She's one of the crazed individuals from Portland, Oregon. I cannot make this up to you. She literally had individuals behind her in inflatable frog costumes. And they're pretending that they're foot soldiers on the front lines of some imaginary war that they made up, right? Because to them, and you saw Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, a few others, you saw them very blatantly prove they don't care about Americans. They really do think they're the good guys. I don't know how you master the art of mental gymnastics to this degree that you sit there yelling at the president when the president is telling you how he's literally had to undo much of what you did. And let's make no mistake. The average leftist always seems to forget this, but this is probably one of the biggest overarching themes they need to grapple with. All they had to do was let Trump win in 2020, the election that he actually won that was stolen from him. If they just let him win, they wouldn't be dealing with this right now. But they couldn't help themselves. They had to say, oh, how can we stop the counting in these few swing states and get Biden in there and then literally throw open the doors at the southern border and let all these people in, right? And allow American citizens to lose their lives because we are prioritizing illegal immigrants. Trump went so far as to even classify fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction and has talked about how it has contributed to the average American's lives, losing their lives. Talking about young women. This is the party that claims to be all for women, right? Oh, we care about women so much. Believe all women, right? But then they're going to let these individuals in who actually cause young American women to lose their lives. And they sit there with a straight face and dare you to call them out on it. These people are evil. These people are morally bankrupt. These people will not stop until they have completely gotten you under their government boot. And what's funny is they're going to sit there now. They would watch this video, right? And they would call me the bootlicker, right? That's what they do. They've perverted the English language to such a degree that individuals who actually stand up for common sense are now deemed radicals by their side. These people are shameless. These people will exploit you. This is not what the founding fathers ever intended. I think the strong case can always be made for term limits, but one of the most poignant lines of Trump's speech was the fact that barely one generation, one lifetime, separated the individuals who were awarded with various awards this evening, even the 100-year-old gentleman who got the presidential, I believe it was the Medal of Freedom. So when he was born, basically one generation before him was when Thomas Jefferson, the founding fathers, were here setting this country on its course. I cannot help but think that the founding fathers would be so disappointed. They would be flabbergasted that here we sit just a couple generations after they set this all in motion. They literally went to war and fought for liberation over a 2% tax. And let me tell you what, now we have Democrats finding new ways to tax you. I feel like we are so close to even like far-flung liberal areas taxing you to breathe. They're already going to tax you in some cases for the number of miles that you drive. This governmental overreach has become so normalized. It's honestly disconcerting. And like I said before, all they had to do was let Trump win. They'd be talking about something else altogether. But they essentially have painted themselves into a corner. And what we need to do is remember these poignant moments. Trump gave them multiple opportunities to literally just stand up for common sense. But it kind of makes sense when you think about it. If these people can't even acknowledge what a man and a woman is and can't even agree that women should not be propagandized and be made to think they are a different gender, if that they shouldn't allow boys in girls' locker rooms, that boys in Minnesota don't need tampons in the school restrooms at the age of 5, 6 years old, when this has become what you are, then of course, common sense feels like an affront, doesn't it? You cannot find common ground with these kinds of people. It's a shame that throughout the course of just my lifetime, I've seen us completely swing from logic to complete illogicality under the guise of caring for other individuals, right? And if you had told me 15, 20 years ago, you know what, Damani, this is what's going to be, this is what you're going to come up against in 2026. I would have told you there is no way. If you told me I would have been live streaming after a State of the Union address, I would have been like, no, I won't. But we are called to speak up and speak out against that which is morally reprehensible. And this, to me, what I just watched is far and away more important than the Super Bowl, than the Super Bowl halftime show, anything else. Because you know why? The individuals who I saw sitting down and refusing to cheer for common sense and stand up for common sense protecting American citizens, you know what that affects? That affects my now 2-year-old daughter's opportunity to have a future in this country. And let me tell you, nothing lights a fire in me more than seeing individuals who would literally put her in harm's way just so they can check a few boxes on the social justice totem pole. There will be no quarter with these kinds of people. And I hope, if anything else you took away from today, I hope it's this. These people took that mask off. They are showing you exactly who they are. All you have to do now is believe them. I don't care if you're looking at Ilhan Omar, if you're looking at Rashida Tlaib, if you're looking at Sidney Blumenthal, if you're looking at Nancy Pelosi, looking at Ayanna Pressley, looking at Nancy Pelosi, looking at even individuals on our side of the aisle who don't have any common sense. Because this is on both sides of the aisle, mind you. There is an elite select class of people who can only continue their assault on what it means to be American if we allow them to. So the responsibility really falls to me and you. How are we going to internalize this? And how can we remember this in a world where we are bombarded with news 24/7 that is intended to make us forget these visceral, viral moments, these affronts to everything that it is to be an American? Can we stay focused through all the noise and remember exactly what the stakes are and who our true enemies are? Because the founding fathers were prescient when they realized that one day may come we would have to defend ourselves against enemies, foreign and domestic. But I do not think they thought the domestic enemies would be sitting right here so soon. Those are my thoughts on the State of the Union address. I'm curious what yours might be. Let me know in the comment section down below. I am continuing to pray for this country. I pray for our president. I even pray for leaders that I disagree with. Because you know what? If they are allowed to be successful, the entire country fails. That means even people who have the best intents at heart for this country and for its citizens. So I would ask you, if you find it within yourself later this evening and throughout the next few days, weeks, months, and years, continue to pray for our leaders. Pray for mercy in the face of this shocking evil, and pray for grace and pray for deliverance from these dark forces who are hell-bent on the destruction of America, the West, and the entire world, as it were. Those are my thoughts. Hopefully you agree. If you do, let me know in the comment section down below. But thank you so much for tuning in. I love you all. I appreciate you all. And I'll catch you in the next one.
But when it comes to the corruption that is plundering, it's plundering America. There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse. This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President J.D. Vance. We'll get it done. And if we're able to find enough of that fraud, we will actually have a balanced budget overnight. It'll go very quickly. That's the kind of money you're talking about. We'll balance our budget. The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings those problems right here to the USA. And it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills, car insurance rates, rent, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, crime. We will take care of this problem. We're going to take care of this problem. We are not playing games.